As a tradesman, I found it quite hard to find information that was relevant to the trades that I could apply into business. When I went through TAFE, which is the Australian equivalent of college in the United States, the information we got there was not only dated, but it was completely not applicable to a modern business. If you can relate to that in any way whatsoever, then you're going to love the Site Shed.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Hello and welcome to the Site Shed. My name's Matt Jones, and this episode here is just a bit of a preview, give you a bit of a heads up as to a bit of my story, where I've come from. I know you're probably not all that interested, but I think it's important. Some people may relate to it. As a tradie myself, and the audience we're speaking to is predominantly tradies and contractors. So, just want to give you a bit of a rundown on where I've come from, my story, and then we'll dive right into some content and get into the nitty-gritties. But this podcast is a business podcast. It's for trade-based businesses, and a lot of the focus is going to be on technology, but not all of it. I have a company now called Tradie Web Guys. That's tradiewebguys.com.au, and we specialize in online solutions for tradespeople. But that wasn't where I began. I grew up in Sydney, and I still live in Sydney, Australia. I live on the northern beaches, and I'm actually a plumber by trade. So I went through high school in North Sydney, and like a lot of kids, I suppose, I was never overly academic. I wasn't what I would consider stupid by any measure, but I definitely wasn't a textbook student. So in year 11 and 12, when you come to that stage where you're forced to make a decision about what you want to do for the rest of your life, like most kids, I didn't really have much of an idea. But I decided, you know what, I'm going to go do a trade. And I was actually working at a service station after school. And one of the mechanics there, his brother was a plumber. And I don't know, for some reason, I thought that'd be a good trade to do. And so I pretty much approached them and started working with them on the North Shore and did my apprenticeship on the North Shore. So it was a maintenance-based company. It was a good experience. I really enjoyed it. Learned a lot about what to and what not to do as you do when you're growing up. Then after that, I went traveling for a few years. So I finished my apprenticeship, I think, on a Wednesday, took off for North America on a Friday, and that was me for 3 years. So I was glad that I'd put the work in and done my trade, because I was actually able to apply that overseas. So one of the messages you'll hear me come back to very often throughout this podcast is you don't always end up where you start, and you'd be amazed at where a trade can take you. I never would have thought I'd be able, when I started my apprenticeship, that I'd be traveling the world with it. However, it certainly has allowed me to do that. So when I returned from traveling, I went back into the trade. I started working for a company again, and we were working more in commercial work. However, I kind of had that feeling that I wasn't really fitted for that job anymore. I really wanted to get more into the business side of things and learn business. When I was traveling, I started taking interest in business, and I started reading a lot of business books. And it seems like the more books that I read, the more unemployable I became. And I really did start to develop that ownership mentality. And I took a job with a company on the North Shore of Sydney, and that was a sales and marketing role. And I was working with a team of 3 or 4 people. We built that company up from scratch, and it was a great experience. Again, learned a lot about business and learned a lot about what not to do. One of the biggest takeaways I had from that position was how important systems and processes are in your business. And more importantly, how much your business can suffer without them. So one of the big pushes that we have at Tradie Web Guys is systems and processes, and we like to help trade-based companies implement systems and processes into their operations for a number of reasons. Well, the first one, of course, is, if you have systems and processes implemented into your day-to-day runnings, then it frees you up, which means that you have a scalable business model and you don't necessarily have to be there. And the other major reason is systems and processes that are documented are an acquirable asset. So if somebody was to potentially come along and want to buy your company, they're typically going to be buying 2 things. Firstly, it's the processes and how it's run. And secondly, it's more often than not your database. So we put a big focus on that at Tradie Web Guys, and we like to help our clients and our customers implement that sort of structure into their business. So that pretty much wraps up this episode. I really just wanted to give you guys an introduction to me, let you know what you can expect from the Site Shed. So head across to iTunes. You can either download or you can subscribe to the podcast. If you head across to thesiteshed.com, you can then join our Toolbox Talks, where you'll get sent every communication that we have via email straight to your inbox, so you haven't got to go looking for it. And while you're there, check out our membership community. For a small fee, you can get access to a platform that's designed specifically for trade-based business owners, and it's regularly updated with content like the course I've just finished, for example, Content Creation Like a Boss 1.0. Anyway, that pretty much sums it up for me. Been great to introduce myself. I hope you enjoy the podcast, and we look forward to diving into some content with the next episodes. So stay tuned, and that's a wrap.
You've been listening to Toolbox Talks by The Site Shed. For more great content just like this, head across to thesiteshed.com and join the amazing community of savvy trade-based business owners.